Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Black British Parent Podcast. Today we have a special guest, someone who's not just a powerhouse in the birth world, but also my mentor. We're talking to Delia Muhammad, a retired midwife, doula and founder of Pregnancy Without Fear, with over 20 years experience in the game. Delia has supported countless women through birth, especially those navigating VBAC, vaginal birth after C-sections, and HBAC, home birth after C-sections. If you're a mum, a birth worker, or just someone passionate about supporting Black women in maternity care, this one's definitely for you. Sis Delia, yes. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for accepting our invitation. So we normally, we don't need an icebreaker, but for the sake of our podcast, I normally invite our guests to share with us their favorite all-time movie.
I've got so many favorites, but the one movie that always comes to my mind is Batman.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is there a particular one or just the whole stories?
The whole story. Just the whole story. I think the one, the thing is, I don't even remember which one it is. All I know is that, is it Bane? When Batman was in prison and he had to climb out.
Yes.
That's the one.
Was that the Bat Cave or it was in prison?
He was in prison.
Yeah, okay.
And they were all chanting and
I think I remember,
different prisoners that were trying to climb up, and many of them didn't make it. And he didn't make it, but he tied himself, and then he dropped. But then he got broken bones, whatever, he healed, and then he tried again and got out.
Wow.
And that one for me I love Batman. I do love those films. The storylines and the way things were created for that films, I think is awesome.
That's quite deep and dark.
It is.
Kind of storyline.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that from you, sis.
I know.
But it's nonetheless awesome.
I could have gone with there's one called Due Date, which I found was quite funny.
I think I've seen that one, yeah.
I could have said that, but I said
no. Forget that one. Let's just keep it real with Batman. Yeah, that's wicked. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay. So, you've been doing this work for over 2 decades. What got you into midwifery, and what made you transition into doula work?
It was my neighbour having her fourth, and she knocked on my door in labour. Her husband couldn't get to her because he was at work, so she knocked on my door, and I went with her. I didn't have a clue, and you know when you see all those films where women go, "Oh, my waters are broken," and then they rush to the hospital, and then they're blowing hard, and next clip, you see they've got this baby in their arms, and you're thinking, that was quick.
Yeah.
And I was expecting, well, it's her fourth, she'd be quick as that. Oh no, it took hours. And when she did tell me, she said, I want to push. And there I am now expecting her to do exactly what I saw in the film. It didn't happen like that. Baby just slipped out.
Gosh.
But we were left with a student midwife.
Yeah.
And at that time, by law, or maybe hospital policy, a student midwife wasn't supposed to be left with a labouring woman. But it just so happened we were left because the midwife that was there was telling us, oh, it's going to take a really long time. So I'm going to go to the office. And she said to the student midwife, when you see things happening, just buzz. She left us, and the student midwife was there with us, just talking. And then when her name was Liz, she said, I feel like I want to push. So the student midwife said to her, well, don't do anything yet. I'll call the midwife. But she didn't even feel her baby slip out.
Gosh.
And she had a sheet that covered up to her waist. So as far as we were concerned, no baby. Didn't see her pushing, didn't see anything. And then I said to the student midwife, can you just have a check? and she lifted up the sheet. This was a white midwife. When I'm saying to you, her face went white, and we looked at her and asked her, what? And she said, the baby's there.
Goodness me.
So she tried to get to the emergency bell. But everything she felt, she tripped, and everything she held onto was on wheels.
That's quite comical. It probably wasn't at the time.
Ended up unconscious.
Gosh.
Underneath the sink. So then I had to get up and press the emergency button for her because she was unconscious.
No way.
So you're hearing all these midwives and doctors coming through, and they burst open the door. What's happened? And all they saw was mum with baby on the breast. And I said, student midwife is unconscious. And that was how my doula world started.
So what made you think specifically like this is what I want to do?
It was actually the mum. She said, I've got a sister and a cousin who's pregnant, and I don't want them to go through this. Would you support them? And I said, yeah, but I didn't know how I was going to do that. And then I connected with Doula UK. Yeah. And that's how it started from there.
So you was a doula before you became a midwife?
Yeah. I was a doula from 1993 to 2004.
Okay. And then, so what from being a doula, what made you then consider becoming a midwife? Because normally the other way around. I think midwives then become doulas as opposed to doulas become midwife.
I've always known it doula to midwife.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've always known it that way. But it was just the fact that I knew that I could open doors being a midwife. Mm-hmm. Whereas as a doula, you didn't get that aspect. You couldn't get certain things done as a doula. But once you became a midwife, just having that title was enough.
Do you think it's the same now?
I think it's the doula position has raised its bar. It has. Doulas are no longer just looking after midwives. You've got doulas that do massaging, acupuncture, so many different
elements
areas
that they bring to the work.
And so now they've added a little bit more to that role, which makes it totally different.
Mm-hmm. So what have been some of the biggest changes you've seen in maternity care over the years, both good and bad?
Oh, well, definitely VBAC. Before, they wouldn't accept any woman that's had a cesarean section to have a vaginal birth. Every woman that I knew that had a cesarean, excuse me, had another cesarean. And like I was saying to you before, Edwin Craigan, he was the obstetrician gynecologist that decided that once a cesarean, always. And so from there, it continued.
Edwin who, sorry?
Edwin Craigan.
Okay.
In 1916, he done a conference for doctors in New York. And it was from there that particular
concepts
came out.
Yeah.
And that's held VBAC mothers hostage for over 100 years. Yeah. And so you've had women just thinking, well, if I had a cesarean, there's no way that I can have a vaginal birth. So you've heard of women or mothers who've had 3, 4, 5 cesareans, having cesareans for every baby. You imagine? And being told every time you can't, it's not possible. And then all of a sudden, women just started turning it around and saying, no, it is.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
I am.
I can't imagine. Fortunately, I haven't had to have that experience. However, you've assisted me in assisting someone to have that experience, which was quite a profound one. And to see the amount of resistance a mother goes through for wanting to at least just attempt and try to have a vaginal birth after cesarean.
It's that automatic label. The minute you have a cesarean, automatically you're labelled high risk.
Yeah.
High risk means there's a danger.
Yeah.
Risk in the word risk alone is telling you that there must be danger.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
yeah.
a woman is not going to in any way take a risk of laboring for too long.
Yeah.
Or if the baby's in a particular position, going to labor.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, at that time was my first time supporting a VBAC. And what I found was profound, what was just mind-blowing, was when I was looking at her medical paperwork, when they made a point of sending her a confirmation email to like, well, you've made that decision and we've showed all the risks,
Yes.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
And in that list of risks, the top one of the list was that there's a 0.5% chance of rupture. And I just thought that's like less than 1% chance, but they still put it at the highest. And that's the reasons why. And it just seems quite profound that they will use such, I mean, it's not a big deal, but it's not as big a deal as they are trying to make it seem. Like that 0.5% is the reason why you should not even think about the possibility of having a vaginal birth after a cesarean. It's just mind-blowing.
And it's also the fact that women and mothers do not understand the physiology of their own body. And because of that, anything can be said to you, and because you don't want to take the risk of your baby being hurt in any way, you'd rather not do that. You'd cesarean section.
100%. And by the way, just for the record, we had a successful HBAC, which is a home birth after cesarean, and that's after her previous having 2 cesareans. Yes, and yeah, what a beautiful blessing.
Yeah.
To be able to experience something that's allegedly so rare to be able to experience.
Very.
I didn't know how I wasn't expecting when doing the research to find how rare that is, but the not trying to downplay the experience, but it was so normal. It was just like a regular birthing experience. So,
and the only thing was that because she hasn't had a vaginal birth, I see every VBAC mother who hasn't had a vaginal birth as a first-time mother.
Yes,
because
that's
she
what it was like.
Because it was totally new to her to be able to give birth vaginally, to contract all those hours, and then to see certain things, there's certain changes,
and her actually go through that experience.
Isn't it?
I think what made this definitely be a little bit different to a first-time mum giving birth vaginally is the idea that the mum's already had a baby. So then that kind of can get into the psychology of things. But we obviously worked through that. And like I said, she had a successful home birth, which I'm very proud of, thanks to your support and mentorship. So Pregnancy Without Fear, the name alone is powerful. What inspired you to start it? And what do you want women to take away from it?
It's understanding that pregnancy isn't a fearful thing. It's so natural, so normal, that when I see the word fear, it restricts. And so if a woman is carrying and she's restricted, you've got gestational diabetes, you've got hypertension, you've got, and it just keeps going, and all this lists. Many pregnant women do not reveal what's inside them. Sometimes you start to hear it when they go into labor. That's when things start to come out. And it comes out through questions. What does that mean? Does that mean it's that? How does that happen? Why would that be happening? And then you realize she's in fear. So what about getting her? You can't eliminate fear when you're pregnant, but you can minimize it. So what I do is I minimize the fear so that her confidence can be built up, her self-esteem can be built up, and she will be fearful, but she won't be fearful where it restricts and hinders the process of labor. And that is the key for me anyway.
It's like using the fear in a positive sort of way, opposed to letting it restrict.
Because we can be fearful when you have an exam. You know, people say they are shiting bricks. Do you know what I'm saying? And I'm thinking, wow. But and people sweat. People will take drugs. People will whatever.
To cope or manage, yeah.
To manage the fear that they have, and that's just maybe just taking an exam. It could be driving, a driving test.
But preparation
Isn't
and
it?
education and having a support system.
All of that helps.
Yeah.
So then you go behind the wheel now, and you're
Yeah.
But you remember what Debbie said. You remember what Delia. You remember what was said to you. Oh, you remember what was in the research.
Yeah.
And then you find, do you know what? I can do this. I'm going to do it. And then when you're told by the instructor, you can do this, it helps because that alone is next to you. The you can do this is actually next to you. So then you know that you've got the support to feel empowered. So yeah, I do feel that women can do it, whether after cesarean or as a first-time mum.
So I'm taking a breath because we're about to get real and dark. Well, not dark, but a bit deep. It's going to go there. So Black women in the UK are still 4 times more likely to die during childbirth than white women. The latest MBRRACE report makes that painfully clear. Why do you think these stats haven't improved?
Because of all the issues that we have as Black women in our lives, that does not give us the time to find things out. We don't read, we don't understand, and because we don't understand, we don't listen. So when someone with understanding comes along and says something, especially if they're of the same hue as you, it makes it difficult for you to grasp it from them. Because if I don't have the GCSEs or the A levels or the O levels, if I haven't been to university, then how can you be telling me? So we will go to other people to get that information and draw from them than from our own. But if our own says, well, I know, but then we have to know how to impart it to them for them to accept it. That's how I see it. And so I have a way of speaking to us so that it becomes tangible, edible to us to say, yeah, that tastes nice. Yeah, and it's relatable. So once it comes from that perspective, it makes it easier to then absorb it. And even if they absorb and say, well, I'll get back to you, sometimes I know that the I'll getting back to you means I won't be hearing from you again. So I just pray that whatever I shared with you, you'll absorb it and at least it will be of something to you in the future.
Yeah, or you've got the support that aligns with you in a way that works for you. If it wasn't with me. That's one of the things I think is difficult about speaking about this birth work, is that assumption that you're telling people, use me. But it's like, no, like if you're not using me, make sure you find someone who's aligned with you and your I don't know if beliefs is the right, or just aligned with you in general so that you're getting the support.
It is a belief because you're not in control of it. You imagine the egg and the sperm comes together without your permission. This egg and sperm, once they're together, they entwine and, blend and without your permission. And then it travels up into your womb without your permission. I mean, all of that is without your permission.
Yeah.
So what kind of power is that? You have to believe. And for the mothers that, or shall I say, for Christian women, Muslim women, Jewish women that I've met and been involved with and mixed with, they've all said it, that you have to believe. There has to be a belief system there for that to occur without your permission. It happens.
Yeah.
And I think it's such a beautiful thing when you can have something like that. I mean, even today, for all the books that I've read on birth, the physiology, biology. It's constantly something new pops up.
Yeah, even with your decades of experience.
Isn't it?
Yeah. I was going to say all the books don't have nothing on your experience.
Nothing.
But, you know, my point, yeah. Yeah.
With all the books, with all the doctors, with all the research, there's always someone that says, oh no, here's something else. You know, and you're forever having to look, find, search.
Yeah.
Because someone said, no, this is how it's done. And then you're having to think, all right, so where do I find more information on that? And it's just continuous. And you can be reading, I've got books that are in the 1930s on biology for labour. And then I've got books that are like in 1920, 22. And I'm looking at both of and I'm thinking, well, the principles are the same, but then there's still something different about it, you know? But it's just so fascinating, and that's what it is. It's just so, for me anyway, it's fascinating because it's never ending. It's forever evolving.
Yeah. So, with the NHS under serious strain, staff shortages, underfunding, and overstretched midwives, how is this affecting birth outcomes, especially for Black mothers?
Once again, for me, it's patience, because we all know that labour takes hours, if not days. And when you go into a hospital, you can't be labouring for days because they want you, they need the beds. So you've got to do something with a certain length of time.
Hey family, we hope you're enjoying the show. If you want to stay up to date with all things Black British Parent, we've got the perfect way for you to do just that. Join our mailing list and be the first to know about new episodes, exciting news, and upcoming events. It's super easy to sign up. Just head over to our website and into your email. Don't miss out on the latest from Black British Parent. Join our community today. Now, back to the show.
Everything in pregnancy is hormonal. There isn't anything that isn't hormonal. And the more we understand that, the better it is for us to be able to then grasp and empower ourselves to the knowledge of what it means to be pregnant, what it means, and how I can prepare myself in pregnancy for labour, not wait until week 38, week 39, week 40. And then we're rushing around like headless chickens to, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Not understanding that when you're doing all these things in a rush, you're producing adrenaline, you're producing cortisol. Those two culprits, because that's what I call them, they're culprits.
Yeah.
They actually cancel out labour hormones, which is the oxytocin.
I wanted to get to that because as you're talking about hormones, obviously, that's one of the best, the most helpful hormones. And I just think, like, the lack of discussion, lack of understanding, lack of knowledge in that area. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful, dismissive or anything. But then I think whilst that conversation is not being had about the actual physiology of pregnancy and birth, where we're moving or have been transitioning to a period where artificial and synthetic hormones are now being used to replace the natural ones. But we're not even having that conversation because it's fed to us as medication opposed to a natural hormone that we can harness within ourselves.
Yeah. I can't say that it's just that clear.
No.
It's just that simple. We have to understand. It means, and I actually start with parents and children with puberty.
Yes.
Because when you can understand puberty, you then get an idea of what it might be like in pregnancy and then what it might be like for birth. And the doctors and midwives, they know this. They understand this. Why? Because they were trained. I was trained in my midwifery to understand this.
And it's the basis of biology. Well, once upon a time, I don't
yeah.
know what they're teaching now in biology.
I don't know either. But for some reason, there is a lack
of understanding.
There is.
Comprehension, yeah.
Yeah. So my road is talking to pregnant women about the physiology of labour and the hormones. And then from there, you find first-time mothers birthing in 35 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. Even I've had a couple of mothers who were induced, but because of what they were doing in their pregnancy, midwives were expecting this long-walled labour, and then maybe end up either being forceps,
emergency
cesarean,
some kind of intervention.
You understand? And instead, it was 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours. So,
speaking on the 35 minutes thing, that was a profound experience. First-time mum, young mum.
Yeah.
And we laboured at home for as long as possible and then went into hospital. And she gave birth within 35 minutes.
Can you imagine? And it's not just because, because a lot of people say, oh, it was because she was a first-time mum and she was a young mum.
That's
so
what they tried to tell me. They tried to say that.
Yeah, no.
But they weren't taking into consideration the fact that was labouring at home.
Before. I know. But you see, and that's another thing as well, and I say this to lots of pregnant women. When you go to hospital, they do not count the time that you were at home. They only count from the time that they examine you. From they examine you, that is from when labour starts for them. So you could have been labouring from Sunday to Wednesday, and then you're going on Thursday. Sunday to Wednesday does not exist.
It does to us. It does to you.
It doesn't.
The midwives.
It doesn't exist to the NHS.
Yeah, that's it to NHS. Yeah, pretty clear. Yeah.
So you can say, because they'll ask you, when did it start? You'll say it started on Sunday. But their beginning is once they have given you a vaginal examination.
They'll psychologically take that on, but paperwork-wise...
It's from when they...
say.
Yeah.
What changes do you think need to happen in the system to improve outcomes for Black mothers?
Education, support.
In the system?
Education and support. Because midwives there's many midwives that want to do holistically, but they can't because there's a system that they have to go by. And unless they break the system, which could possibly have them called in, then they can't do it. So doulas would be the next best support system. I don't know what it's like now, but there is quite a shortage of midwives. So I don't know what what pregnant women are doing now in order to get the support that they need.
Yeah.
But doulas obviously would be the next point of call.
Yeah.
If not birthing at home.
Yeah.
And there's been quite a few mothers that have been free birthing.
That's a whole nother conversation.
And quite a few doulas
are
supporting free birthers.
It's understandable why.
Especially with the fact that hospitals are short-staffed.
Yeah.
Which means that certain midwives... It's funny because even with labouring mothers, labouring women, as you experience, it's about staying home as long as possible.
I mean, I mostly work with home births, but the few times I have, done work with hospital birth, we've attempted to birth as long as possible. And then the few times when it hasn't happened that way, we go to the hospital earlier, you can automatically see the comparisons and how,
Yeah.
you know, the experience pans out, should I say.
Yeah, it's funny because in my early years of doulaing, I'd be with women for up to 2-3 days. I didn't have a clue about physiology of labor, nothing. All I knew was when they start having contractions, I've got to be there.
Yeah.
And it's only because when I used to watch those films where women labor for about 5 minutes in the clip, and next minute they had their baby. This is what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But
To have a better understanding.
oh
yeah.
my word!
And I find the minute anyone gets wind that I'm a doula, particularly elders who may have been birthing in the 80s and the 70s, the stories that they tell me. I remember my mum used to tell me stories about her experience of birthing me and my sister. And then when I'm working with clients, and then their mums are involved, and then they tell me their stories, and it's quite interesting because the enema talk comes up. They used to give women enemas during labour, which doesn't happen now, obviously, for a good reason. But and the shaving of the pubic hair. I shouldn't laugh, but yeah, there was a lot of stuff that and to think that we don't do those things anymore. But there's things that are happening now that still doesn't need to happen in that respect. You know what I mean? But
even with enemas, I used to ask the midwives, why do you use enema? And they'd say, oh, because the labours go quicker that way. And they're correct.
Yep. But that wasn't the right method to use.
No.
But the concept of it.
Yeah. And so now I just say to mothers or women, make sure you are going to the toilet at least once a day.
So VBAC and HBAC, there's so much misinformation around them. What are the biggest myths that stop women from considering these options?
That you won't dilate, that your scar will rupture, although there is a possibility, but it's literally, I always recommend going to the RCOG, I've forgotten what it's called now. The Royal College of Gynecologists, and reading up on what they say on VBAC. That way you understand the guidelines by which the midwives and doctors go by, because that's what they go by. If you're in America, the ACOG.
Yeah.
But they're the two areas that I recommend everyone go to in relation to the guidelines of the NHS, because I can say anything and it's not going to be of any value. So I always say, read up on what they say, because that's what the guidelines of the NHS go by as well.
Thank you. So what does a successful VBAC or HBAC actually look like, and how can women prepare for one?
Belief in self, belief in labour, the physiology of labour, believing that you can give birth vaginally, but you have to have continuous encouragement, continuous care for that to happen.
Yeah.
If you haven't got that, it's not going to work. You will end up, you can labour, but you may not necessarily give birth vaginally. There's another term, TOLAC, which is a trial of labour after cesarean. And a lot of doctors in America, they don't do it here specifically, they do it over there, where they'll say to you, we'll allow you to labour, and let's see how you go. And a lot of VBAC mothers have actually had their vaginal births through TOLAC, because they dilated so quickly that the doctors weren't expecting them to actually give birth.
Yeah.
Trial of labour. You imagine?
That sounds a bit wild to me.
How can you be trying
It's
labour?
almost like you're humouring them.
Yeah. Patronising.
Yeah.
oh, we'll let you.
Think you can try.
Yeah.
But we know you're not going
That's
to be
how
able
the midwife,
to.
the very first birth
Yeah.
I was at. Oh, we'll let you.
That's what it was like with the HBAC I did recently.
You know, so.
That kind of attitude, yeah.
Yeah. But I would say trial of labour, yeah, try your labour and see.
Mad thing. What's the difference between planning a VBAC in hospital versus at home? What should women be thinking about when weighing up these choices?
I'll always keep saying physiology of labour, because I'm telling you, there have been women who have had a VBAC because the baby will breach. So they never laboured at all. Yeah? And they'd go into labour. And yeah, it's the belief in your system, not the NHS system, in your physical
system, yeah,
system. Because once you believe in your system, you will give birth. And like I said earlier on, your body goes into labour without your permission. So how can you not believe that your body will not go into labour? Your body remembers. Even if you haven't gone into labour, your body will remember and say, I know what I have to do. Stimulate the hormones, you're having contractions, you're having little niggles, and then all of a sudden, you're in labour. So there's nothing, say nothing new under the sun. There really isn't anything new when it comes to pregnancy. It's just understanding how your body works. I remember a book I had called How Your Body Works.
Yes, it was a series collection of books.
Yeah,
Science,
and
biology
each
books.
one
Yeah.
was a part of the body, and then by the time you had it, there was like male, female. Yeah, how your body works. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I saw one of my clients. They had that collection of books for their
Right.
children, so it stuck
Yeah,
out to me. So yeah, it was
yeah.
funny. It brought back some memories.
Wow.
So did we answer that question? What should women think about when weighing up the choices between
Hospital and home birth.
for VBACs?
Planning. It is about planning, but seriously, you could plan anything and everything. If you don't believe, it's not going to work.
I hear you. Yeah.
It's not. And the midwives that are around you, if you have a home birth, then the midwives around you have to believe too. They have to have the patience and believe. And that's why I prefer women having someone else, like a doula, with them. So then that way, when it's time for them to go into labour or be in established labour, they'll start to believe, because they'll realise, hold on a moment, I'm feeling different. This isn't stopping. It's more intense. It's frequent. Then you know, yeah, you're on your way.
It leads me on to a next question, which I feel really silly for asking because, not silly, but it's not a silly question, but I'm just thinking of my own experiences. I'm trying to not do this. Do you think hospitals are getting better at supporting VBACs, or is there still a lot of resistance from doctors and midwives?
There will always be resistance because you are labelled high risk. So unless you are confident, you're empowered, you're educated, you have the support around you to say, I want to have my baby at home, you might be better off in hospital, because whoever is around you is not going to be happy knowing that you are thinking of doing this, or you have decided to do this at home.
Yeah.
And you don't have any so-called protection.
Yeah.
So husband or father-to-be is going to feel that you should be in hospital.
Because he's going to be worried about you.
He will. He will. He doesn't want anything to happen to you and your baby. So he will want you in a hospital. But if you have the right education, the right support, and you feel empowered and your confidence grows, then You can labour at home and still give birth in hospital,
Yeah.
but not give birth to be, how can I say, to have intervention, where you're on a monitor, you're being given IV, you're being given that, something is suggested, oh, why don't you take this, why don't you take that? It doesn't have to happen that way.
Can you be in hospital labouring and not have to have those things that are normally recommended by the hospital?
No. They're going to want to give you something. It's just their way. It's a system. There has to be something written down in their notes that they did something.
I was just hoping, because that hasn't been my experience yet, but I was just hoping maybe
They
missed something.
need to do something. They do need to do it. So unfortunately, no, you can't go in there and say, I mean, even...
You can say it, but...
You can say it.
But whether or not it happens
It
that way...
actually happens is a different story. Because you've had women, I mean, they do things like birth balls.
Water births.
Peanut.
Is
it peanut? See, half the things I don't use, so peanut ball, birth pools. You know, some hospitals have birth centres on the side, midwifery-led units on the side. So depending upon what it is that you're going for, aiming for, and that obviously is about what's happening with you physically, will determine where you'll be placed. But the majority of the time, you're placed on the labour ward. That's where you'll be.
Unless you're not high risk.
Well, if you're not high risk, you won't be going into a labour ward. You're more likely to be in a birth centre
or at home.
But
if you're not progressing the way that they think you should then you'll be transferred elsewhere. Yeah. Can you share a powerful VBAC or HBAC story that really stuck with you?
A VBAC story.
Or a HBAC story, yeah. This is bearing in mind, that I've heard some of your stories and you're supporting women from across the world through HBACs and VBACs.
I was just thinking over here, you're the first.
I didn't have VBAC or HBAC.
Not you, the birth.
Oh, the one that I supported,
that's
the HBAC.
The first HBAC.
Really?
Yeah.
No way.
Yes. I've never had a HBAC. I've never had a HBAC. VBACs, yeah, but not HBAC. And my most fascinating HBAC was in Nigeria, a mother who had 3 cesareans, and she had a VBAC about a year ago.
I thought you'd supported in HBACs. I cannot believe that.
No, that was when she told me she was having a home birth, I was so elated.
The way you told me that I should I'll be able to assist in swimming, I'm thinking that you've had experience. No. You know how to put me in hot water, innit?
Yeah, that was my first ever.
Goodness.
That was the first ever VBAC at home.
Yeah, I know. It was a pleasure being able to work with you. In all the experiences, but this one definitely because of what it means.
I just think that we work as a good team, man. Good team.
So, and I agree, by the way, you've been both a midwife and a doula. How do doulas fill the gaps in the NHS system, especially for Black women? You kind of said this before, but if you have a specific response.
I just feel that as a doula, you really have to help them mentally. Mm-hmm. For me, it's the mental, because they'll have challenges with family members who feel that they should be in the hospital, family members who do not believe in doula work and support. And so it takes a lot to convince. And plus it's also about economics, finance as well. What are they willing to pay? If they want to pay, can they pay? So yeah, as a midwife, I really didn't stay long as a midwife in the NHS. I just didn't. I just preferred doulaing.
Really?
I was more happier doulaing. So a couple of months and I gone. Sorry. I left and just went back into doulaing. But the fact that I was a midwife made my place even more urgent for women who wanted to be supported at home.
Yeah. Do you, in your experiences, your decades of experience being a doula, has finances really always been an issue for our Black women to be able to that will prevent them from getting a doula?
Definitely. Because the faith is in the system. And women don't think that, well, if I have someone with me, it will really help. It will really get me to understand. A lot of the times, it's not even so much her, it's her family.
Yeah, I hear it.
Yeah, so if her family are not happy with it, if her family don't really see the worth financially in it, then no.
The idea that needing or requiring or having doula support and finances being the barrier sometimes, and obviously the discouragement potentially or the lack of understanding from family members that kind of almost discourage women from getting a doula. I think that's quite a big one.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
It is. And and even the partner, the husband as well, can sometimes be quite disparaging.
Because I know there were some stats to say the benefits of having a doula opposed to not having one, and the stats seem to be more in favor. I should have had it ready, but the stats seem to be more in favor of having less interventions when you have a doula than when you don't have one.
But you know what doulas are? Doulas are our mums, our sisters, our grandmother, our cousin, all the females that were around you, whether in the family or neighbors, that would come and support you while you were in labor. And then when they felt, or if they felt it was time for you to either go into the hospital or to call the midwife or doctor to your home, that's what they would do. But doula is nothing new. We talk about doulas as though doulas are only invented. Doulas have been around for thousands of years.
We had granny midwives back in the day.
Yeah. So,
I found this with stats on Doula UK. It says research, well, not stats, but it says research shows that doula support results in shorter labours with fewer complications, reduced requests for pain medication, including epidural, reduced likelihood of a cesarean birth or an assisted delivery, higher likelihood of establishing and continuing breastfeeding, more positive feelings about a birth and postnatal experience, reduced rate of induction of labour, and improvement of equity and culturally responsive care. And that's from Doula UK. You can check that out for yourself in terms of the benefits of having a doula.
When I hear the word doula, all I think about is mum. Rubbing your back and telling you, get on your knees. And then auntie, let me go, you want some tea? And then grandma, oh, stop making all that noise. You can go through this. Do you know what I'm saying? You've just got different individuals who were able to play their part in getting you where you were supposed to be, which is to give birth. So for me, doulaing, I am a doula, but I am also an educator. I am a coach, so I'm a midwife. I'm a podcast host. So there's so many different paths to me, and I can choose whichever path I feel, depending upon who it is that I'm dealing with and where I'm going with them or where they're going with me, and where do we have to, what do I have to do to keep you on that path if I'm your guide, if I'm your educator, if I'm the doula, if I'm the so you know, and then that way it's empowering you all the time. And it's about keeping you empowered. Why? Because, and I didn't say this before, my concern is your mental health. It's not the baby. The baby is already there. And we can have as many people as we want looking after your baby. How are you? How are you thinking? What are you feeling? What are your visions? What do you desire? That's what my concern is. Because whether I'm there or not, a baby is going to be birthed. And there's going to be a baby by God's grace. And if there is a baby, then who's looking after you?
I was about to say.
Who's thinking about you? This is a lifetime thing. This is not something that pops out of you and then all of a sudden you can go back to yourself. You are never the same person. I can look at you and I can say, oh, I remember when me and you were going to school. Once you have that child, all right, I see you and I know that you are a mother now, but internally you've changed. You're no longer the person that I knew.
Yeah.
And unless I've got a child and I'm a mother,
I'm not going to understand.
I'm not going to be communicating with you too much, connecting with you too much anymore. Because birds of a feather flock together. And so once you're a mother, you start flocking around with mothers. And you all like little mother hens clucking away. Isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty much like that.
You know, so yeah, it's a case of birds of a feather flock together.
So what's your advice for black mums to be looking for a supportive birth team?
Black mums to be, they need, it is essential for them to have a birth team. Why? Because as I said earlier on, you've got individuals who are family members that may not necessarily feel that you should have that. And they may feel that they are the ones that should be with you. And they can be with you, but there are individuals that have a better understanding of what you are going to experience. And because of that, the many hours that it could possibly be, they will be able to tolerate that. And I feel that it's important that that is taken into consideration. I really do believe that.
What's the one message you want black women to hear when it comes to birth?
It's not easy. It can be long. However, with a good birth team, I mean, you asked that, you've asked the question already. It really is about having the right people around you. People who want you to do what you're doing, people who believe in what you are doing, people who are happy to see that you want to do what you are doing. If you have anyone that is against anything that you are doing, if you have any ideas and they say no to it, you don't want them around you. It's important that everyone around you believes as you believe.
It can be so hard though.
Yeah, but it has to happen. It has to happen. Even if it's just you and the doula, fine. But if you're going to have people around you that are going to be telling you other than what you want to hear, then
I agree. 100%.
Seriously, it's not right. Because labor is about making sure. I mean, you have animals. An example, I used to have a cat and we used to call it Susie. Susie had 11 kittens. And we never knew when Susie had her kittens. We just heard meow.
Yeah.
And my dad said, but weird. What, the cat have cat? And when we found out, Susie hid under a chest of drawers and had all her kittens in the dark under the chest of drawers. She weren't in the sitting room in the middle of the table
with bright lights.
You understand?
And loads of people
watching
other
TV
cats.
with us.
Yeah. It wasn't.
Do you know what I'm saying? And if that's what animals do, then we have to do the same thing. And the thing is, women do that. They end up being in a particular part of the house and they just want peace. They want space, they want warmth, they want darkness, but they want peace. And they want those who are around them to accept that environment too. So create the environment that you want and have those who you feel will complement that environment. And once you know that they complement it, you're on your way. And you will birth. You will, whether it be here in the home, in your car, because I've seen babies birthed in cars, on a boat, in a caravan.
You know?
Yeah, seriously. And this is before midwives even arrived. Babies were being born.
Yeah.
Some mothers actually birthed in the passageway while they were getting themselves ready to get in the car to go. Why? Because, and I think it worked with you, with mum who had her baby in 35 minutes. When she started going down the stairs, she must have went downstairs.
Yeah.
As she's going down the stairs, gravity was working.
Before we got to the car, her waters broke. She was sick and the waters broke.
That's gravity.
And that was it, yeah.
That's gravity.
And it took us like less than 10 minutes, about 10, 15 minutes to get to the hospital, and that was it.
So from the moment a mum starts getting ready and starts walking around, getting things, and then gets into the car, she's upright.
Yeah.
Gets out of the car, starts walking upright. All of that is helping her.
And at that specific point, that's necessary as well.
Yeah. I love birth. I love it. I love it.
Me and you both. It's.
I love it. It's awesome. And all I ever want is for mothers to get the best birth experience possible. It may not necessarily be perfect all the time, and it's never perfect. But why go through unnecessary trauma when you don't need to?
It's true. It's so beautiful and awesome. It's never perfect, but it's miraculous.
It is.
It's like being able to witness and experience a miracle.
It's a wow factor, isn't it? Because you reflect on it for days.
Yeah.
You as a doula reflecting on it.
Yeah. And I have some amazing memories from the work I've been able to do. It's one of my favorite careers I've ever had, to be honest. Yeah.
Seriously, I
Selfishly.
love it. I love it. I couldn't ask for anything else.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, I couldn't ask for anything else. Giving birth, I mean, to see a woman give birth is beautiful. It really is. And to see her be a mother.
Yeah, and birth the way that she wants to.
Yes. And then when you see the fathers afterwards, you know, and they're looking at you and thinking, what, you did that?
Yeah.
Boy, yeah.
And the levels of, I don't do things for gratitude, but it's amazing to see the father transition, and then once the baby's born, and then be so grateful that he was there to assist.
Isn't it?
Like the gratitude is relief.
It is, that's
what
the
I mean?
word.
It's
belief for you, relief for him.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is, because he is saying to himself, wow, I don't think I could have done this without so-and-so.
Yeah.
You know, or without us going to the hospital.
Yeah.
Because those who are in the know, that's what you do. You leave it to them. You leave it to them. He's in the know as well, you know.
Yeah.
He's in the know. But he's in the know as in protecting her and making sure that she doesn't need anything.
Yeah.
So he'll make sure she has what she needs around her to keep her comforted, to keep her feeling safe. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Sis Delia, as always, it's a pleasure to be in your presence.
It's a pleasure to be here.
And thank you so much for joining us today. Please.
Thank you.
please, let our people know where they can find you and learn more about Pregnancy Without Fear.
Well, Pregnancy Without Fear, my website is pregnancy-without-fear.com. If there are any mothers who want to do VBAC, they can communicate with me on Pregnancy Without Fear. I actually have a VBAC website, but it's not up at the moment. So they can communicate with me on Pregnancy Without Fear as well. I am on I Will VBAC Instagram. So if they want to communicate with me there, they can. I had a Pregnancy Without Fear page on Instagram, but it was hacked. So I don't use anything in that name at the moment.
On social media?
On social media.
Well, I will be back.
You can get me on Pregnancy Without Fear as well on Facebook. And also Delia Muhammad, Muhammad, Delia Muhammad.
On LinkedIn or Facebook?
On Facebook.
Okay.
And LinkedIn.
Yeah. So guys, I hope this was a fulfilling and informative episode for you. It's always a pleasure for me to have my mentor and my previous doula here with us in conversation and to share some insight, especially with what's going on right now as we speak. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, take care.